morning, Earthlings. How you doing? Welcome to First Contact Radio. Hope your life is treating you well today. All right, let's jump into things with our cosmic weather for today. Over at spaceweather.com. We start off with our solar wind at 343.9 kilometers per second. Our planetary K-index is at a 3 at the moment, and it's expected to stay about the same the next 24 hours. Alright, we can look here at our coronal hole. Let's take a closer look at this. Alright, now we've got this image here. We see the ends are rounded off, but we can kind of see this is still our triangular space in here, it looks like. So we're going to definitely keep an eye and see what's going on with that. Our chance for geomagnetic activity, or actually flares, is 40% over the next 2 days, 25% over the next 24 hours of an M-class flare. Very low chance, only about 10% in the next 48 hours we're going to have an X-class. And chance for any sort of storms are pretty low, 15% or lower for any kind of activity. Now, other news going on here says the geomagnetic outlook estimates 30-45% chance of strong geomagnetic storms around the poles around the 28th, 29th. That's the next 2 days. This here's an image here before sunrise on the 27th. Today, skywatchers up and down the eastern seaboard of the United States witnessed a strange apparition. A quintet of milky white plumes appeared in the night sky, twisting in the winds as the edges of space. It was pretty unreal and very exciting to see, said eyewitness Jack Fusco, who sends the picture from Seaside Park to New Jersey. The plumes were chemical tracers, basically chemtrails, trimethyl aluminum, deposited in the upper reaches of the Earth's atmosphere by 5 rockets launched rapid fire from NASA's Wallops Flight Facility in Virginia. The goal of the experiment, named ATREX, which stands for Anomalous Transport Rocket Experiment, to study 3D turbulence in the thermosphere. And what's the best way for them to do it? Well, the best way for them to do it is to shoot aluminum particles up into the sky and let them drop down on you. That's right, because they want to know how the atmosphere works. They really don't care how you work, or if you continue to work after you get sprayed with their chemicals. Crazy world, folks. Crazy world we're living in. All right, next up here, our astrological information for today. We're still dealing with the same sun sign we're going to be for the next 3 weeks. However, our moon sign has changed. The moon, which represents our unconscious mind. We're in the in-between phase between Taurus, the bull, which was yesterday, and Gemini, which will fully be tomorrow. So we're in between the phase. Taurus, earth, Gemini, air. So we've got a little air and earth mixture going on underneath the surface. Air is words and actions, activity taking place. Taurus, earth, is more practical. So we have earth and air working together in conjunction with the sun. So those are the elements we're working with today. The moon sign, as you can see, or the moon phase, is on its way back up again. We're 22% of the way full already, making our way up to a full moon. And the Mayan oracle is, we're at a 3-tone day, so we're at the 3rd place in the wave spell of the warrior. The kin for today is called the mirror, and it's guided by the white wind. And the supporting cast around it, you have the star, which is the antipode, the analog, which is the dragon, and the occult or hidden power, which is the night. Altogether, this whole matrix here has this phrase: I activate in order to reflect bonding order. I seal the matrix of endlessness with the electric tone of service. I am guided by the power of spirit. And on the Gregorian calendar, it is Tuesday, March 27th, 2012. So there you have it. It gets us started for today with our cosmic weather. First story up. First thing up for today. This is a long story. I'm not going to play the whole thing because it's about an hour long. I'm going to play 10, 15 minutes or so. Get things started. This is really good. It's called the Hidden Human History Movie. And it's an animated story, but it's very well done. It tells a story that I think is very important, and I really like this a lot. So I want to play part of it, introduce you to it, so that you can go and you can watch it on your own. All right, so here we go. Hidden Human History. Over to you.
Over the last few thousand years, we have warped our own history. Our stories of the past have been changed, altered, mistranslated, and completely been misunderstood as we rounded the curve on the precession of the equinox. Modern views of our history account for many things, but completely dismiss many very important pieces in the puzzle. For example, the pyramids of Giza. There is no modern theory that accounts for how these could have been made. Individually, each block cannot be pulled even with 50 men pulling it, let alone drag it for hundreds of miles and then stack them on top of each other 450 feet in the air, in such a precise way that even modern technology can't achieve. Not to mention having it lined up precisely with both Orion's belt, a golden mean, and Fibonacci spiral, and be a primary nodal point of every sacred site on the planet. And that's just one example. Our history is not what we think. Many things that we've been led to believe to be true simply is not. This has got to be the biggest. The field of archaeology recently saw some monumental discoveries that are rocking the foundation of what we think we know about ourselves. Many ancient cities such as Babylon, Erech, and Akkad that were written about in the Bible and other ancient texts were always thought to be myths because no one could prove they existed. Then, one of them was found. This led to finding another, and then another. Inside one of these cities, archaeologists found thousands of cylindrical clay tablets hidden deep within the earth under this ancient city. The tablets were completely covered in text, written in cuneiform, and tell an ancient story that spans back over hundreds of thousands of years on this planet, describing the history of the earth and the origins of the human race in great detail. Now, the first thing we all want to do is just say that they were making things up. They didn't know the history of Earth, and they were simply creating tales to explain where they came from. However, if this was true, how can we explain how they knew so many things about the universe that would seem impossible to know? Not only did the Dogons know all about the distant planets in the solar system, but so did the Sumerians. They described them all in great detail in these Sumerian records. They also knew about the precession of the equinox. That's a tough one for a historian to understand, because it takes over 2,000 years of continuous observation to actually learn that the Earth has a wobble. The Sumerians had this information from day one of their civilization. A man named Zacharias Sitchin spent a long time transcribing these texts and had put them all together in his books, but many others have also done the same, and the interpretations are always very similar. Not only that, but Thoth has also shared information about this with us, and his account matches the Sumerian records. Adamus and other channelings discuss it as well. If you see all of these records and sources, there is a huge connection between the stories. Now, this story spans back hundreds of thousands of years into our past. It talks about Tiamat and Nibiru, the Nephilim, seeding the human race, Adam and Eve, and the children of Lemuria. This portion of the story is really interesting, but not the most crucial to know. We're not going to be covering this at this time. We are, however, going to be picking up the story at the end of Lemuria, and discussing the events of Atlantis up to present day. What I'm going to tell you is a mix of what these records say, along with what Thoth has told us for some finer details. Please have your own experience while watching this. I'm not going to tell you that this is fact. I am simply saying, decide for yourself. There was a time, long ago, when humans existed at a very high level of consciousness. We were interdimensional, and were very psychic. We communicated through thought and emotion, much like how animals do rather than speaking or writing, which would seem very primitive. We lived primarily on a large string of islands called Lemuria, but there was a consciousness shift. We moved up in consciousness, and the islands of Lemuria sank beneath the oceans. At the time of this shift, a new continent rose out of the waters. We called it Atlantis. Back in the early 1900s, the spiritual path of the United States was similar to what's happening today. People began to learn about meditation and study ancient lands like Atlantis and Lemuria. We actually found quite a bit of evidence that Lemuria existed, and it had to do with coral. See, the ocean floor does rise and fall. Coral can exist up to 150 feet under the surface of the water. In 1910, the surface of the ocean was probably higher because they were able to see coral rings heading away from Easter Islands for a great distance. These rings were estimated to be found at 1,800 feet, which means that for them to have existed, they would have had to be much higher and sunk slowly. Probably more important, they also found the exact same fauna and flora from the Hawaiian Islands all the way to the Easter Islands. This is a great distance, but if you look at a map, you'll see a long string. That string, according to Thoth, used to run along the western shores of Lemuria. It is only on these islands that have the same flora and fauna. Same trees, bugs, bacteria, everything. Science can only explain this if there were closer land bridges between these islands at one point. Although we were studying this at that time, World War I began soon after, and we lost interest in spirituality and the ancient lands for a very long time. After the sinking of Lemuria and the rising of Atlantis, at first the human race became scattered. We moved to various islands and continents all over the world because we didn't have a home. Yet. We didn't know where to go. At that time, there were about 1,000 humans at a very high consciousness, more than all of the rest. They were called the Nakals. Today, we know them as Ascended Masters. The Nakals began preparing Atlantis to be our new home. They projected their energies across the surface of the continent in the form of the Tree of Life, not with 10 circles, but with 12, an extra on top on the island of Udal, and an extra on the bottom in the water. There were 10 components on the mainland, and even though it extended over hundreds of miles on the surface, it was projected to the accuracy of a single atom. We chose to move to Atlantis because of the Kundalini. In humans, the Kundalini is often referred to as the energy serpent that runs up and down your spine. When activated, it provides an immense amount of energy through all of the chakras. The Earth itself also has a Kundalini because the Earth is alive, like an organism, running from the center of the planet to a specific place on the surface. Wherever the Kundalini resides, the people there become the spiritual leaders of the world. The Earth chose Atlantis to be the new energetic center of the planet. After Atlantis, the Kundalini moved to the mountains of Tibet, which is why the Buddhists were the leaders in pure spirituality for the last 13,000 years. It was a very pure place. It moved again within the last 10 years, but that's a story for another time. If you want to read more, check out the book The Serpent of Light by Dreamspell Melchizedek. Suddenly, in a single day, the Nakals breathed life into the Tree of Life on the surface of Atlantis. This created vortexes of energy rotating out of each and every circle. Once the vortexes were established, the children of Lemuria began to be called forth. Millions upon millions of Lemurians who had settled all across the planet began to be pulled toward Atlantis. A great migration began. However, the Lemurian body of consciousness had only reached the age of 12 as a planetary consciousness. Because we were right-brained, we were a female species, like a 12-year-old girl. And some of our centers weren't working yet. They had worked with these energies, but only mastered 8 of the 10. Each migrating Lemurian was attracted to one of these 8 centers on Atlantis, depending on the nature of the individual. There, they settled and began to build cities. That left 2 vortexes with nobody using them, not a single person. These 2 vortexes were pulling life toward them, and in life, you can't have an empty place. Life will find a way to fill it. Similar to if you were driving along a freeway, following another car, and you drop too far behind, someone will fill the place. That's exactly what happened on Atlantis. Though the Lemurians had only filled 8 of the vortex areas, Mayan records state clearly that there were 10 cities in Atlantis when it fell. You can see these records in the Troano document, which is now located in the British Museum. This document is estimated to be 3,500 years old, and it describes in detail the sinking of Atlantis. To fill these 2 empty vortexes, according to Thoth, 2 extraterrestrial races stepped in. Not 1, but 2 completely different races. The first race were the Hebrews, coming from our future. Thoth says that they came from off-planet, but we don't know where exactly. The Hebrews were kind of like a kid who went through 5th grade and didn't make it, so they had to do that grade over again. They learned all the math, the left brain stuff, but they didn't get the right brain aspect of evolving consciousness, the doing. They didn't graduate to the next level of evolution, so they had to do it again. They knew a lot of things that we didn't know yet, and brought many concepts and ideas to us that we weren't aware of yet. Now, if this is true, this would explain quite a few things about the Hebrew people in general. They seem to have many sacred geometries hidden within their culture. It also puts perspective on the story of Exodus. Perhaps Moses incarnated into that lifetime to free the Hebrews because they were not direct descendants of humans and were being treated unfairly. Or could it be that Moses was visited by an ascended master of the Hebrews who guided him to free their people? Given what we know about dimensions and consciousness, it definitely puts a fresh perspective on old stories that didn't make much sense. We could talk about this more, but let's continue for now. There were no problems caused by the Hebrews coming to Atlantis. They actually benefited our evolution. The other race that stepped in caused big problems. These beings came from the nearby planet of Mars. See, according to Thoth, Mars looked very much like Earth a little less than 1,000,000 years ago. It was beautiful. It had oceans and water and trees that were just fantastic. But something happened to them, and it has to do with something called the Lucifer Experiment. From the very beginning of creation, everything is simply an experiment. Creation itself was just consciousness creating and inhabiting itself in that creation. There is no divine plan. Spirit can do whatever it wants. Having said that, if Spirit decides to cut itself off from the rest of consciousness and create a separate reality on its own, it can do that too. This is called the Lucifer Experiment. Because Spirit is God, it can do this. There is nothing wrong with that. We've kind of been led to believe that Lucifer is evil and the devil. This just isn't true. Lucifer is just another means of perceiving the reality. It is not a unity perception of oneness, but rather a duality perception of two-ness. There's a flower of life pattern for Lucifer as well, but that's a big topic for another time. Anytime the Lucifer experiment has been attempted in the universe, it always ends in failure. The species will cut itself off from love and will become incredibly male, left-brained. What always ends up happening is that everyone becomes very greedy. There is no compassion for one another, and everyone ends up fighting until they end up killing themselves. More than 1,000,000 years ago, the beings on Mars joined the Lucifer Experiment, and it failed dramatically. Basically, they cut themselves off from the unity of the universe and created a separate reality. When the Martians severed the love bond, they became pure male, logical beings with no emotions. What happened on Mars was that they ended up fighting. Mars became a battleground. Eventually, it became clear that Mars was not going to survive. They blew their atmosphere away and destroyed the surface of the planet. Nova recently did an episode on planetary magnetics, and they found some interesting things about Mars. The planet didn't have a magnetic system, however the surface was magnetized, implying that at one point it did, but that something happened. Now, we've been discussing the star tetrahedron before, and now I want to give you a brief understanding of the Merkabah. The Merkabah was known in ancient times as the Chariot of Ascension. It is the star tetrahedral energy field around the body. All around the world there are references to this in ancient texts. When activated to its full potential, the Merkabah, which is both a tool and part of your being, can be used to do the impossible, included but not limited to changing dimensions and traveling through the universe. Before Mars was destroyed, they built huge tetrahedral pyramids. They built 3, 4, and 5-sided pyramids, eventually building a complex that was able to build a synthetic Merkabah. After 1,000,000 years or so, it's been eroded, but the proof is there. Now, because the Martians were severed from the Unity consciousness, they couldn't create a living Merkabah. They simply used it as a tool. They created a synthetic Merkabah to travel in time and find a new home. A small group of Martians tried to get away from Mars before it was destroyed, and that place they found was Earth. About 65,000 years in our past. They saw this little vortex sitting there, just pulling in life, with no one in it. They didn't ask permission. Being part of the Lucifer Experiment, they just said, alright, let's do it. And they stepped onto that vortex, and in doing so, they joined and changed our evolutionary path. Thoth's father, Thome, was one of the Nakals who set up Atlantis on the island of Udal. That island, the top of the Tree of Life, was the brain of Atlantis, and on it was a small city called Poseidon. This city is what Plato was discussing when he said that Poseidon bore 10 children, the 10 circles on the Tree of Life. Poseidon was made of 3 rings painted in black, red, and white stones, and it was the symbol for Atlantis. The inner circle represented the Nakals. The middle circle were the priesthood, called the Maya, and the outer circle represented the regular people of Atlantis. We'll come back to this down the road. There were only a few thousand Martians who came to Earth through the synthetic Merkabah. The first thing they did when they arrived in Atlantis was try to take over the continent. They tried to declare war and invade. However, they were vulnerable due to their small numbers, compared to the millions of Atlanteans, and we finally subdued them. We were able to stop them from conquering us, but we could not send them back. When this happened on our evolutionary path, we now had the planetary consciousness of a 14-year-old girl. The Martians were an incredibly male species, and also very old, so what you had was a 14-year-old girl being taken over by a 60 or 70-year-old man. We had no choice in the matter. The Martians just stepped in and said, like it or not, we're here. They didn't care what we thought or felt about it. Really, it was no different from what the settlers of North America did to the Native Americans. Once the initial conflict was over, it was agreed that the Martians would try and understand this female thing they lacked. This emotional feeling, which they had none of at all. Things more or less settled for a while, but the Martians slowly began to implement their left-brain technologies, which the Atlanteans knew nothing about. One after the other, the Martians kept putting out these left-brain inventions, until the Atlanteans slowly began to see things through their left brain. We slowly began to become a male species. The Martians gained control, bit by bit, until eventually they had all of the power, as was their intention. The animosity between Atlanteans and the Martians never subsided, not even till the end of Atlantis. They hated each other. The Atlanteans were shoved down and treated like inferiors. It was like a marriage that the female component didn't like, but the male component didn't really care if she liked it or not. It remained this way for a very long time, until about 26,000 years ago, when the next phase slowly began. Before we continue, we have to talk about polar shifts.
This is the UFO News with Joshua Poet.
All right, Dirk, thank you very much. This is the UFO News. Starting off, our first sighting for the day comes to us from, this is Scott Seawaring, blogspot.com. All right, cloud orb follows jet over Los Angeles. UFO. Our video new. Okay, let's see here. So this is what we're looking at. This is obviously the plane. This is the little dot cloud. This is a great capture of an orb that is following a jet near the chemtrail. The orb may be there to monitor the pilot or the pollutants that the jet is creating in the trail. It seems anything in the sky that moves attracts these cloud orbs, which can move slow or even jet-like and suddenly move faster than your eyes could keep up. Alright, let's take a look at this here. See what we see. Okay, we definitely see the chemtrails. And let's see if we can move fast up here and get a good look at where this is. Alright, I'll go a little farther ahead here. Yeah, look at those chemtrails are just pouring these out, you know, just look at that. Just horrendous what they do. There we go. Okay, there we got the little dot. It's traveling along with it, moving along at a pretty good pace there. Look at it even, alright. Very good. That's our first sighting. Next one goes from into Germany. Cigar-shaped UFO filmed over Ohmenhausen, Germany. Huge cylindrical UFO was seen and recorded in the sky over Ohmenhausen, Germany, Saturday the 24th. Alright, let's check this out here. See what we think. We're looking for the cigar-shaped object. Alright, there we go. Well, look at that. Big old cigar-shaped thing moving up there in the sky. Alright. Right here in the middle, just kind of hanging out there. Very interesting indeed. Alright, I'm going to leave that for you to check out on your own. Next one, flying saucer caught in tape over Himalayas on the 25th. Check this out here. Guessing that's it right there. Alright, off the wing of the plane. There's the object in question. Pretty interesting. How'd you like to be on a plane and you look out the window and that's what you see? What would you think? Alright, next one here. Fragment from UFO found in Siberia. We often hear about weird things around the world referred to as extraterrestrial activity, like the alien spaceship crashing in Carolina and the Phoenix Light incident. Now we have another case of paranormal activity to add to your X-Files. This news comes from Siberia, where some people have discovered an unusual metal fragment which they claim to be from a UFO. The huge chunk of unknown fragment found in a forest near a remote village in Siberia. Locals say that this fell from the sky. It weighs about 200 kilograms, and the authorities are still trying to figure out what this thing is actually made of. The object has already been confiscated for further inspection, meaning that we'll never get to know the truth about this ever again. Alright, let me play this. Alright, there's an object right there. Alright, very good. You can check that out, see what you think. And last but not least here, UFO stories for today. Area 51, museum to display UFO and alien items. A Smithsonian-associated Las Vegas museum is touting an exhibit loaded with alleged UFO and extraterrestrial-related items. The National Atomic Testing Museum unveiled an exhibit titled Area 51, Myth or Reality, which presents historical records of the U.S. military site that has been long called the most secret place on Earth, even though we have pictures of it. Located 80 miles north of Las Vegas, Area 51 was used by the military to test spy planes like the U-2 and A-12 during the 50s and 60s. Now, the exhibit examines a long-held belief that the military tested captured alien craft on the site, as well as the remains of extraterrestrials that reportedly crashed outside of Roswell, New Mexico in 1947. The CIA declassified most of the records on Area 51 up through the late 60s and early 70s. Alan Palmer, the museum's CEO and executive director, told the Huffington Post, "Now we know a lot more about it and we can present some of the really true stories that happened out there," he added. "And we feel a bit of an obligation to tell the story about the public's perception of Area 51, which runs right into aliens, UFOs, and extraterrestrial time travel and those kind of things." Conspiracy theorists have claimed for decades that the U.S. military used Area 51 to examine captured UFOs and extraterrestrials. There have been bits and pieces of aviation publication and about the possibility of something really weird flying around out there, but nobody has done any serious reporting about it. Journalist George Knapp of KLAS TV, who in 1989 broke the story about alleged alien sightings at Area 51, told the Huffington Post, "The Las Vegas exhibit also examines artifacts from the incident commonly referred to as Russian Roswell. In 1968, a strange-looking sphere crashed into Mount Izvetkova in Dalnegorsk, Russia. Several Russian scientists sampled debris from the crash site in the days following the incident." Knapp, an Emmy Award-winning journalist, was the first American to travel to the Russia crash site, where he was given several samples of debris. Debris is now part of the museum exhibit. All right? So there you have it. So even though Area 51 is said not to exist, there's now a museum talking about it. Strange things that Earthlings do and keep secrets from each other and so on and so forth. I don't know. Earthlings, I don't understand them all. But anyway, we move on from here. Time to wake up.
What if our government was responsible for some of the greatest crimes against this nation? Would you really want to know? These are big questions, but these questions deserve answers. It's time to demand the truth.
People should not be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid of them.
9/11 was an inside job. Kennedy was killed by the CIA. Jimmy Carter saw a UFO. Answers to secrets you need to know. So wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. The evidence is overwhelming. Step past your fear, take a look. Illuminati lies keep growing, but they're illusion from your eyes. And wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. What would our founding fathers say if they were alive today? Must be turning in their graves. Redcoats are coming, big brothers watching. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. What if I land and two if I see? And I on the opposite shore will be ready to ride and spread the alarm through every Middlesex village and farm. Whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it. When a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Patriots arise. It's time to demand the truth.
All right, I'm back. So, I got a couple thoughts here before we go on. Is in regards to, the craziness of the world. We've got all sorts of nonsense going on. We have these unconstitutional laws being put in place. The Constitution's being violated, and yet our military does nothing. The supposed leaders of this country who could stand up do nothing about it. And I don't understand that. I don't understand how, with a president in office that is doing things unconstitutionally, how the military hasn't stepped up, why they haven't stepped up. I don't understand why. So either they know that there is something unconstitutional going on, and those who are in power in the military are allowing it to happen because they really don't care. And if that's the case, we got a real big problem here in this country. I think that they do care, so there's got to be some reason why they're not stepping in now, why they just haven't taken over. The President of the United States and his minions have declared that the United States Congress gets bypassed. They've declared that they go for international approval from NATO. They go and he has secret conversations where he talks and says, I have more flexibility after the election. I mean, there's too many secrets and too many lies going on with this administration. There's too many questions that are brought up about the president's identity. Yet nobody in the military, nobody part of the military brass has any questions about that. Really? Really? Come on, guys. You're supposed to be smart, intellectual beings. To some degree, if you're a military leader, I would expect that if I have access to some of this information, then you should also have access to this information. You should be questioning and wondering why the commander-in-chief who is giving you your orders has all kind of secrets about his background. And if he happens to be Kenyan and he's ordering you around, you should really be questioning. And the fact that you're not makes me wonder why. Makes me wonder if you really are on the side of the American people like you say that you are. I don't know, but I wonder why you allow these atrocities to happen. There's a domestic terrorist in the White House. He's an enemy to the Constitution of the United States, and it seems to me, according to our founding documents, that those who have the ability to do something should do something about it. Now, the only ones who can really step in and actually do anything at this stage of the game are the military. Because all what the people say doesn't really matter. They just get bypassed. But the military could actually do something. And I don't understand why. And I'm going to leave that question for you. Something for you to think about why that is. Because I know a lot of you went into the military because you wanted to do something good to protect your family. But with all these lies that are going on, with the Constitution being violated, are you really protecting your family by supporting those who are creating the lies? Isn't it time that you step up? Military, United States military, isn't it time you step up and step in and do something about the power grab that's going on in Washington? I'm going to challenge you to do that, to stand up to your oath, to do something about the injustice going on because the administration is taking over. It's become a dictatorship. And you, the military, you're being put in a bad position. You know, I saw a picture not too long ago. I'll see if I can dig it up. And it's got a picture of the military, and then it's got all these people in Nazi Germany laying in a grave. And it has the caption underneath the military. It says, "These men are just following orders." And under the people that are dead, these people are obeying gun laws. That's kind of where we're at in a situation. That our military is being told to take the guns away from the people. And we have to hope that the military has integrity to do that. Yep, I know I'm asking a lot of the military. I'm asking you to stand up for your oath that you took. To remember the oath that you took. People of America are counting on you being patriots. American patriots. We're counting on it. Please don't let us down. Now, moving right along. This next story here is about Ron Paul. Or a Ron Paul and one of the latest things he had to say about Rick Santorum. Let's check this out, see what's going on here. Here we go.
So let's bring tonight's special guest. Here now, Republican presidential candidate Ron Paul, Congressman from Texas. Congressman Paul, good to chat with you again. I want to start off by talking about budgets because Eamon just talked about being out of money. Paul Ryan submitting a budget. You're critical of that, even though it's coming from a prominent member of the GOP. What is your beef with Paul Ryan's budget?
Well, it's slightly better than what the Democrats are doing, and if those are the only two choices, that helps a little bit. But I'm not satisfied with it because it really doesn't cut that much. I mean, I want to balance the budget. I think spending is a problem, but I don't think that budget reflects a concern about spending because it doesn't even talk about close to balancing the budget for 30 years. It doesn't really cut any agencies of government, and it adds actually to the militarism and the military spending. And I don't think that's a sincere attempt or concern about how serious our problem is. I think we're continuing the same progress. I think this is, a lot more talk. And I think in budgets in terms of only 1 year. The first year is the only thing that counts. So they talk about, $2 or $3 trillion of cuts on proposed increases 10 years out. Why should this be pumped up as if we're really doing something? I think the crisis is much worse. I think we're in a debt crisis, and you can't solve a debt crisis by more spending and not paying attention to the debt.
Is Paul Ryan's budget DOA anyway? Because many of the critics have already latched on to the fact that 2 brackets of tax rates is going to significantly lower tax rates for people who are on the upper bracket, and therefore this is already being painted as a gigantic tax break for the upper class and for the wealthy.
Well, I'm for all tax breaks for everybody. So with that part of the bill, I would support because you need cut taxes. But it doesn't mean a whole lot if you're not serious about cutting spending. If you cut taxes and you continue the spending, then you're kidding yourself. So it's a spending problem. I think taxes are a consequence of the spending, and I don't think Republicans are very serious. I don't think the other candidates are serious. My proposal is you cut $1 trillion out of the budget the first year and balance it in 3. And they will not accept this idea that we're not the policemen of the world. But the American people have come around to this. The American people want us home from Afghanistan, these different places.
But Congressman, is Congressman Ryan's budget DOA in your view? Is it done already?
Oh. I imagine it is just because of the politics of the situation and the impossibility of making progress. As long as this country and the people endorse entitlement systems, the welfare state, and the policemen of the world, it's not a budgetary problem. It's a concept of the role of government problem, and that hasn't changed. Both Republicans and Democrats endorse, in the leadership positions, both endorse this principle that you really don't cut anything and you just pretend to cut on several years out, and that's why we're in this crisis. So yes, they're not going to resolve this.
Okay.
They're going to argue and fuss about it for a long time to come.
The president in Cushing, Oklahoma, to defend his administration's handling of the Keystone Pipeline, he's saying, listen, we just needed more time. He's going to try to fast track from Cushing through your state down to Port Arthur, Texas. Do you think, though, this is just political grandstanding because the administration is getting worried that gas prices might be their biggest problem come November?
I think that's a pretty good assessment. But what bothers me most about this whole argument is, why is it that we have so much power in government and in the hands of the president? Why should one person like the president be able to say, oh, we're going to have a pipeline? No, we're not going to have a pipeline. I think that's outrageous amount of power. If you do have that power, and you have to assume that power, it should be used to enhance the marketplace and competition and allow things to progress. But to use it to boycott it and stop it for the benefit of maybe a certain group of special interests in the base of the Democratic Party, I think that's wrong. But I think there's way too much power. These kind of pipelines, we've been having pipelines in this country for hundreds of years, and they've been built before, and there wasn't so much power. I think it's this environmentalism that takes over, where you can't make any progress, and then too much power falls into the hand of the president. That's where our problem is, I believe.
The Washington Post out with an article just a couple of hours ago, basically citing a number of prominent Republicans saying that Rick Santorum needs to quit the presidential race. Do you agree?
I don't agree that they have any business telling who should drop out or who shouldn't. I thought this was a democracy.
Yeah, the argument, though, is that it damages the GOP's chances longer term.
How do they know that? I mean, why should they make that assumption? Maybe a good debate is what we need. Maybe we need more debate. Maybe we need this to drag out a bit so that people like myself who believe in the marketplace and sound money and the Constitution, a non-interventionist foreign policy, we need more debate. We don't need people closing us out and say, well, we got our candidate right now, and he's just sort of a modified Democrat, and therefore we have to quit this debating business. I think that's terrible that you other people tell individuals to drop out of the race. I think we should have a debate and continue to debate it because we haven't solved our problems yet.
Fair enough, Congressman, but Rick Santorum basically making fun of Mitt Romney's advisors' etch-a-sketch comment, sort of implying, hey, you know, do we really want that type of candidate? Almost implying that if it's not he or Romney, then maybe Obama would be best left to be reelected. That's the kind of damage some are saying doesn't need to be done because they're just kind of punching each other like rock'em sock'em robots, and that it's not benefiting the GOP whatsoever. You're okay with that?
No, what right does Santorum have to be challenging Mitt Romney for flip-flopping no run? I mean, Santorum is not exactly a conservative. Everybody looks at his voting record. I mean, he has voted for all the debt increases and increased the Department of Education, and he votes for Planned Parenthood. And then he gets, right now the media pumps him up. He's the Ronald Reagan alternative to Mitt Romney. He hasn't earned the right to condemn Romney because he's not conservative enough, because he ought to be looking to his own record and explain why he's voted for so much big government. He votes for foreign aid and things like this. That doesn't mean, that means he's not a conservative. He's a fake conservative.
Then in your view, is he more conservative than Romney? Because we have a guest coming up with the Tea Party later on who says that Romney is too liberal. So if you're saying that Santorum has done these things, do you think Santorum is too liberal?
No, obviously he's for too much big government. It's the definition of conservative liberals that need a little bit of adjusting, because if you double the size of the Department of Education and it's George Bush that does it, that's called conservative. If you continue to fight wars that are undeclared, that's called conservative. If you increase military spending, that's called conservative. If you pass the Patriot Act and intrude into everybody's houses without a search warrant, that's called conservative. So I define conservative as being for limited government and personal liberties, and believe in the Constitution and a foreign policy where it's designed to defend this country and not to police the world.
Millions of people out there stuck in the middle. I completely agree with you, Congressman Ron Paul. A pleasure as always. Thank you, sir.
All right. The Constitution, that's a big one, to believe in the Constitution. Isn't it amazing how you don't really hear the other candidates talk about the Constitution so much? They really don't seem to care about it, apparently. I mean, you would think that that would be first and foremost for them to discuss, but they don't. All right, yesterday we talked about the raid that took place on the raw foods and the natural foods. Well, here's Department of Homeland Security working at its finest. Department of Homeland Security raids home to seize deadly hair straighteners. Wow. Good for them, the Department of Homeland Security. Good thing that we created this agency, because they are out there fighting terrorism at its worst. Whew. Deadly hair straighteners. This is from Paul Joseph Watson at InfoWars. The Department of Homeland Security, a federal agency created in the aftermath of 9/11 to fight terrorism, has continued its war on potentially deadly grooming appliances by raiding a home in the affluent Orange County city of Laguna Niguel to seize allegedly counterfeit hair straighteners. About 10 investigators with the Orange County District Attorney's Office and special ICE Homeland Security investigative agents combined through the garage and the single-story house in the 29500 block of Pelican Way near Niguel Road and Alicia Parkway. According to the feds, the American people need to be protected from the threat of counterfeit hair straighteners because they could pose a safety hazard to consumers. The owners of the business that sold the products, Brisk Deals, labeled the incident a misunderstanding, adding that the feds conducted the raid as if they were targeting armed terrorists, not dodgy hair irons. Well, there you go, Department of Homeland Security. You know what? Department of Homeland Security, got an idea for you. You're raiding for hair supplies. How about something really worthwhile? There's this case going on. Sheriff Joe Arpaio, he's determined that the documents put out by the President of the United States, the sitting president, are forged documents. So Department of Homeland Security, the Homeland is under threat because there is a domestic terrorist in the White House who is not who he claims to be. So rather than going after counterfeit hair straighteners, why don't you turn your energy and attention towards the counterfeit president and work on that situation? then we might think you have some credibility to you. In the meantime, who are you? You're the shampoo police? Is that the best you have? I don't know. Something's not right, America. Something's not right. And here's this one. Look at this. Homeland Security Newswire. It gets even better. New surveillance system. 1 second to search through 36 million faces. New surveillance camera system could search through data on 36 million faces in 1 second. A new surveillance camera system can search through data on 36 million faces in 1 second. Developed by Hitachi Koase Electric, the camera can automatically detect the face from either surveillance footage or a regular photo and search for it. DigiInfo reports that the search results are displayed immediately, showing thumbnail images of potential matches. When a thumbnail is selected, the associated recorded surveillance footage can be viewed, so users can quickly view the person's actions before and after the image was taken. Dignify notes that with the new system, it is assumed that the faces are turning around within 30 degrees in the horizon and vertical directions from the camera, and the faces are at least 40 by 40 pixels in size. Hitachi says the system is suitable for customers that have a relatively large-scale surveillance system, such as railways, power company, law enforcement, and large stores. So there you go. Hitachi has created something that should be awesome for the Department of Homeland Security and the police forces to have, because that's exactly what is needed. More surveillance. You see, we're working really enthusiastically, it seems, in this country to move us closer to 1984. Because apparently that movie set some really great precedents in it. And the leaders of this country, they seem to be following it like a playbook. So, very weird. And people are accepting this without speaking up against it. That's even the weirder part. TSA blocks security expert from testifying to Congress. Lawmakers slam agency for treating Americans like prisoners and cattle. This is from Steve Watson. The TSA ensured that a leading security expert who has been vocally critical of the agency's screening methods was barred from speaking before a congressional hearing yesterday. The hearing before the House Committee on Oversight and Government Reform was held Monday in an effort to evaluate the agency's performance and address concerns raised by lawmakers, experts in the fields, and members of the public. Bruce Schneider, an internationally renowned security technologist and author, was scheduled to testify regarding the TSA security screening initiatives, but was formally uninvited at the last minute following a complaint by the agency. On Friday, at the request of the TSA, I was removed from the witness list, Shiner wrote. The excuse was I am involved in a lawsuit against the TSA, trying to get them to suspend their full-body scanner program, but it's pretty clear that the TSA is afraid of public testimony on the topic, and especially being challenged in front of Congress. They want to control the story, and it's easy for them to do that if I'm not sitting next to them pointing out all the holes in their position. Unfortunately, the committee went along with them, he added. So, yes, isn't that always the case? Unfortunately, those who should be defending the public are always going against them. Again, the TSA, the T stands for terrorists. There are terrorists in America. I know you think that, oh, they're not terrorists. How could you say that? Look, this country is filled with all sorts of criminals. Obama starts at the top of the list. And then you've got tons of others. All you got to do is just go down the line. And then you look at the previous administration. Don't forget about Bush and Cheney and Rumsfeld. Those are three huge criminals right there. And yet America continues to support them. The reason this country is going down to crapper is because there's too many Americans out there supporting all of the criminals. Stop supporting the criminals, and guess what? We will have a much different country here. A country that all of us Americans will be proud of. Not just a few criminals who are trying to rip everybody off. Now, next story. Man arrested, charged with assault for pointing finger at cops. Look how cops are getting these days. A Fredericks man faces 2 counts of assault for allegedly pointing his finger at police officers. You can't even point a finger now? Another example of how behavior exempt complete subservience to law enforcement is now being treated as a crime. David Lovelace, who has no criminal record, was arrested and handcuffed last week after he allegedly made a hand gesture at a police who had testified against his son in a robbery case. He now faces 2 counts of assault on law enforcement officer by way of intimidation and 2 counts of obstruction of justice. All right, so we've got police officers out there who can't take someone pointing a finger at them, and DHS who goes in and they raid for hair products. You guys should be really proud of yourself, police and DHS. You're doing America a great service. I'm just kidding. That was being sarcastic. I think that you should be absolutely embarrassed for who you are as a human being. If you are one of these individuals, if you can't take someone pointing your finger at you, you got a problem. If you're in the DHS and you're there to fight terrorism and you're going to collect hair products, shame on you. You're a disgrace. You're a laughable. You're a joke to your profession. Go and fight real terrorism. Go get the guy in office who's the fake. Do something right for a change, would you, instead of terrorizing the American people? Now here's something. I think every American, if you're a parent, you need to pay attention to this. Kids all over America are being put on buses and sent to alternate locations during school terror drills. Now, if you're a parent, you may not know this. Pay attention. All over the United States, school children are being taken out of their classrooms, put on buses, and sent to alternate locations during terror drills. These exercises are often called evacuation drills or relocation drills and are little more than disturbing. Sometimes parents are notified in advance where their kids are being taken, and sometimes they are only told that their children are being taken to an undisclosed location. In the years since 9/11 and the Columbine school shootings, there has been a concerted effort to make school emergency drills much more realistic and much more intense. Unfortunately, the fact that many of these drills are deeply traumatizing many children does not seem to bother many people. Do we really need to have an active shooter drills where men point guns at our kids and fire blanks at them? Do we really need to have relocation drills where people are kids are rapidly herded onto buses and told that they must surrender their cell phones because they are not allowed to call anyone? Our schools more closely resemble prison camps every single day, and it is our children that are suffering because of it. It is also important to keep in mind that much of the time these drills are not the fault of the local school administrators. Often these drills are being mandated at the state level. Our politicians have become obsessed with school safety in recent years, and apparently their idea of school safety involves deeply traumatizing our kids. Well, if you have a child and your kid is being pulled out of school for these kind of drills, you better look into that. Where are they taking your kid? What kind of undisclosed location? Did you give your permission for that? And if you didn't, who is giving permission for your child to go out and do such activities? Better pay attention, parents. You're losing your children before your very eyes. You're losing them to a system that doesn't care about you and doesn't care if you lose your system, and apparently doesn't care if they scare the kids. Pay attention, folks. Pay attention. There's so much going wrong in this country. So much going wrong. And unfortunately, too many good Americans are misinformed about what's going on or feel that there's nothing they can do, so they sit back and they do nothing, while injustice after injustice continues to happen. I don't know. I just can't sit back and not say anything about it. So I guess I'm speaking for all the chickens out there who are afraid to speak up, because I don't know. I mean, I just can't see how people could remain silent about these things. Makes no sense to me. All right. Now, Earthwise, there's some situations going on here. This is Dutch Sins talking about the plumes that are happening all around the country. Here we go.
Hey everybody, Dutch Sense here. 11:26 p.m. Central Time on Monday, March 26, 2012. I'm over here on College of DuPage. I've got the visible satellite view turned on for 2 kilometer products. So you click on 2 km products, and then you select the south here. And what I want you to see is something that's occurring across the entire south and up into the Midwest. And it's a series of large plume eruptions coming out of the ground, coming from the ground, across multiple states, approximately all at the same time. And I mean within an hour of each other, all the way across the entire South. You can see these. Some of these are absolutely massive. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom in on each area, and we're going to look first in the South, Then we're going to go up here and look in Arkansas, and we'll go up here and look in Kansas. It goes all the way throughout the entire South. Now, Intellicast has these marked all as wildfires popping off at the same time. All right, so what I think it is the computer is detecting hot steam, hot particle matter coming from the ground, and it's detecting it as fires, and it's being a false report as fires. Because there's no way these could all pop off at the same time. Some of these are absolutely massive, going up and kicking off enough steam you can see here to top out in the upper atmosphere, flatten off. And to show that to you, let me just go ahead and show you the big ones first, I guess, but then we'll go look at the south. Let's look in Arkansas first. Okay, now forgive me for the slow timing here. I'm uploading a video and I've got some other stuff going on here. But we'll go ahead and let this load. As it loads, you'll see it. It for sure shows. So here you go. And again, I'm sorry for this long load time. There it is. And let me slow it down a little bit so you can get a better idea. We'll stop it right here. Here's where the plumes first appear. In this region here. Okay? And we'll bring it forward one at a time. And you see them start to erupt off in massive quantity. I mean, we're talking a lot of steam or whatever it is coming out of the ground here. And now look up here in southern Missouri. Same thing. And it's going up above that cirrus cloud. So you're talking about a huge, massive eruption of, well, of steam of some kind. And look, they all pop off relatively at the same time.
All right, very good. I'm going to leave the rest for you to watch. This is like another 8 more minutes. Good information from Dutch. So thanks to him for keeping on top of all of that, because it's important to know what's going on with the Earth. You're not getting these kind of reports from the governmental agencies because, again, they don't seem to really care. There's an effort to keep things quiet from the American people because the powers that be don't think that the American people can handle the truth. Can you handle the truth? Can you? If you can handle the truth, then, then seek out other sources where you can find the truth. Don't rely on the mainstream. They're not being honest. Yes, they have stories that they tell that are things that are going on, but they do a lot of misdirection during the course of their programs, and, people are being misinformed badly. All right, very last thing we're going to do for today is our prayer and our meditation. So, we've got all these problems going on in the world. I've shown you what's going on. I show you that there's UFO things going on. I show you what's going on with the weather, the current events. Now we want to bring it all around, and we want to bring it to a place where we can think about a solution. We can't rely upon a solution come from our governments. They're not going to do it. The only solution is going to come from God. And the way that you access this information and the solution is you have to go inside and you have to tune in and make sure you're connected to that source. Now, maybe the term God for you doesn't work. Maybe you're turned off by that because of religion, and I could understand that. But substitute another word: Great Spirit, Divine Providence, the Great Creator. There's so many names that can be assigned to the creative force of life that there's no reason that a particular term should turn you off. So what we're going to do is we're going to tune in to this meditation here. So go ahead and close your eyes. Sit back, relax. All right. I'd like you to tune in, first of all, to your breathing. Tune into your breathing. Take a deep breath. Hold it. And exhale. And do it again. And as you hold that breath, feel all of the tension in your body gathering together. And as you exhale, just allow all that tension to be released from your body. Do it again. Another deep breath. Hold it. Exhale. Let all that tension out. Now, as you are seated there, relaxed, quiet, look around inside. Feel around inside for that place where you connect with spirit. It's there. Everybody has a way they connect. And it's not necessarily one particular point. Just feel the place where it comes from within you. Feel your connection to the source. And as you do, you're reminded that you are a part of something much bigger than who you are right now. And that when you understand your place in the much bigger scheme of things, you realize that what's going on Earth is just a small piece of the puzzle. It's like a dream, and one day we'll all wake from this dream to another reality. To realize this was just a moment in time. It's a moment in time, an opportunity to share with the world the love that we have to share, with the kindness we have to share. And by sharing the love and kindness, by assisting each other, we learn the compassionate nature of spirit. We understand that the compassionate nature of spirit flows through each and every one of us, no matter who we are or where we're from. Imagine that all of the chakras are activated, starting with the chakra at the bottom of the spine. Imagine the color red. And the energy continues up to the second chakra, just at the belly button. Imagine the color orange. And from there, send the energy up to the chakra above it, just below the rib cage. Imagine the color yellow. From there, send the energy up to the heart chakra. Imagine the color green. From the heart chakra, the energy goes up higher to the throat. Imagine the color blue. To the third eye, which is right between the two eyebrows, imagine the color violet. And finally to the top of your head, the crown chakra, imagine the color indigo, and the light continues onward up into the cosmos. And you're connected above and below, connected to all that ever was, all that is, and all that ever shall be. Honor this connection. Feel where this connection comes from. And as you practice connecting in each and every day, just a few moments at a day, just a few moments at a time, you will get better and better at connecting to this source. Now let's just, from our heart chakra, send love all around the world to each and every individual. Send love down into the planet and up on into the cosmos. Let's think a positive thought for everyone on this planet today. And let's bring our energy and attention back to the present moment on the count of 3. 3, coming back to the present moment filled with confidence. 2, coming back to the present moment filled with faith. And 1, coming back to the present moment happy, healthy, and whole. Happy, healthy, and whole. There you have it. That's our show for today, my friends. I hope you are getting a lot of insight from the information that's being presented here, because the whole idea is for you to see things that aren't necessarily being shown. And the more that we're able to do that, the better off we're going to be. Look, we're all in this together. I know there's a lot of challenges in the world, but the idea is for us to get past these challenges. And the way we do it is we have to step into the goodness of who we are to allow that goodness to shine. It's a world of goodness, not of darkness. We have to rise above the challenges, but we're going to do it. We're all in this together. Let's just keep encouraging each other, keep loving each other, and just keep sending light around the planet. All right? I'll be back tomorrow with more news and information. Be safe. I'll talk to you soon. Peace. I'm out of here.